Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar presentation. This is Financial Halo / MedX Prime. We trust that everyone's had a chance to review the legal disclaimer. Our parent company, ladies and gentlemen, is Financial Halo. Started that company about 3 years ago. But this morning, we are going to focus in on our subsidiary company called MedX Prime. As mentioned by the person that invited you, we're going to share some critical information that perhaps may save your life or the life of a loved one. It's called pharmacogenetic testing. This is a brilliant, life-saving test that everybody in the country, everybody in the world, frankly, needs to hear about. We'll also touch on our other 3 services that we offer under MedX Prime, and then we're going to call to your attention a way that you guys can help us get the word out on this very, very important topic. Good morning. My name is Sunil Wadhwa. I'm the founder, CEO, and president for Financial Halo / MedX Prime, along with my business partner, Mr. Ken Newton. A little background about us, a fun story. Ken and I actually met each other 24 years ago in Lama's class, of all places, as his wife was yelling at him and mine was yelling at me. We looked at each other and said, what the heck are we doing? And that's how our friendship began and our business relationship. And folks, I share that with you because 24 years ago, my daughter, who was born, is now a very, very critical part of our company, along with my wife, along with our amazing staff at our corporate office in El Dorado Hills, California. And those of you that catch our vision, we hope all of you will. Those of you that elect to help us get our message out to as many people as we can, you'll find that you become part of our extended family. And those aren't just mere words. That's a culture of our company, and we're very proud of that. So let's jump into our presentation and talk about the life-saving test. Ladies and gentlemen, unbeknownst to most of us, there are 4 billion prescriptions written in the U.S. every year. Now, the population of the U.S. is about 330 million. Let's take a subset of those that don't take meds out of that number, and let's call it 250 million that do. So the facts mathematically say it all, that most people are taking multiple medications. It's flat out scary because of what's happening out there. So the reality is that every one of you on the call here today are probably on meds or have somebody in the family that is. Now, the more important question and the focus of our next few minutes is, have you or anyone you know ever had an adverse drug reaction? And sadly, every one of you can answer yes to that question as well. Because if you haven't had one, you certainly know someone that has, because the facts are very scary. So ladies and gentlemen, think about this. What if there was a very simple test that could look inside your body, so to speak, and give your doctor vital information about you, about your DNA and your metabolism? By the way, please don't confuse this with the ancestry stuff that we see on TV. That's not what this is. This is looking at your DNA and your metabolism, and it gives your doctor vital information as to what your body can handle from a medication standpoint, and more importantly, what your body cannot handle. And with this information, ladies and gentlemen, your doctor will not have to play the guessing game. And I say that with all due respect to the medical community. We may have some doctors on the call here today, but it is a guessing game in today's environment. So ladies and gentlemen, what you're learning here is the new frontier of personalized medicine. Not a true statement, however. You see, the technology we're going to talk about has been around for 8 years. And yet 90 to 95% of the medical community has not incorporated it. Frankly, and pardon me for saying this, but it's one of the stupidest things I have ever seen. And I think you'll concur with me as you learn about this. So let me share some staggering facts about this very serious issue. And these are U.S.-based numbers. Of course, this is a worldwide crisis. People take medications all over the world, of course. But here in the U.S., 2 million of us will be hospitalized every single year because we've taken the wrong medication or medications, didn't suit our body, we find ourselves in the hospital. Now, the more significant number, of course, is the next one, which is the 125,000 deaths every year. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a firm believer that for most of us, numbers go in one year and out the other, if you will. But I want to really emphasize this. I want all of us on this call to really understand the significance of our topic this morning. That 125,000 number, if you will, is like an airplane with 350 passengers crashing every single day for the next 1 year. Let that sink in for a second. Of course, God forbid that ever happen. Here's my question for you. How many of you would get on an airplane? And would you wait a whole year before making that decision? I think not. I think most intelligent people will say, wait a minute. After the third or fourth, fifth consecutive crash, I think we would make that intelligent decision not to get on an airplane. Now, silly as that analogy is, I hope it's sinking in here. Why in the world are we consuming medications without this test? Why in the world are doctors prescribing medications without this test? There's no logic. There's no rhyme or reason here. What you're learning about here, folks, is a fourth leading cause of death. Not the 400th or the 40th, the fourth leading cause of death, and yet nobody's putting the spotlight on this thing. Well, I'm very proud that we are here at MedX Prime. In our very little own way, we made an impact over the last couple of years, and I'm very, very proud of that. Now, I can share numbers all day long with you folks, but let me share a picture with you. This is a picture of a family of one of our representatives in Missouri. That beautiful young lady in the middle is a daughter-in-law of our representative. Her name is Carrie, mother of 5, beautiful young lady, 37 years old. And last year she was on 8 medications, and one Sunday afternoon she said to the family she wasn't feeling well. She went to lay down, take a nap, and her little baby girl ran in and found mommy dead. You see, she had a very serious adverse drug reaction and killed her. A 10-year-old boy that's not in this picture was on 4 medications, including Prozac, and he too had an adverse drug reaction and died. In a minute, when you find out how simple, how stupid simple, again, pardon my French, this test is, you'll ask yourself, why in the world didn't their physician give them this test? Because perhaps if they would have been given this very simple test, maybe they would be here with us today. And what's going to baffle you and have you pull your hair out, as they say, is that although I just mentioned a minute ago that this test has been around for 8 years, and 90 to 95% of the medical community has not incorporated this test, I'm very proud to say, I'm very excited to say that the Mayo Clinic, Vanderbilt, St. Jude's. In fact, I tip my hat off, if you will. I bow down to St. Jude's because they have just committed to testing every patient with this brilliant test. And as you can see, other amazing medical centers and hospitals, etc., that are incorporating now this test. And I applaud each one of them. And yet I'm angry, very angry, because 90 to 95% of the medical community has not yet incorporated this. In fact, the Associate Director of the FDA, he's quoted to say that this is the science that allows us to predict a response to drugs based on an individual's complete genetic makeup. Helps doctors to individualize drug therapy, decrease adverse drug reactions, and increase the effectiveness of treatment plans. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't get any more common sense than these statements. And yet today, it's trial and error. Allow me to share why I'm so personally passionate about pharmacogenetic testing. You see, 2 years ago, I was coming back from New York, and in flight, I was bored, so I started flipping through in-flight magazines, and I ran across an article on pharmacogenetic testing, our subject matter here. And as I read that article, I became very angry because I reflected on what happened to my father and my wife. You see, 2 years prior to that, my father went through an open-heart surgery. And as you can imagine, the myriad of medications that an open heart patient is put on. And the poor guy had nothing but reactions. We're talking about dizzy spells. He fell a few times. He was always nauseous. He was weak, laid up in bed all the time. He would call his doctors, and the doctors would say, yeah, come on in and we'll try something else. So off to the doctors he would go. They would drop this med and add 2 more and take the dosage down on that one and add the dosage on that. It was a nonsense game. Off to the pharmacy, back home. Those didn't do what they needed to do. So on the phone, you guys know the drill. I know every one of you can understand this. And my dad suffered for a year. My mother suffered. Our entire family suffered watching our father go through this. And then 10 years ago, my wife was going for her black belt in karate. My 2 daughters are second-degree black belts. So needless to say, ladies and gentlemen, I have 0 say in my home and 0 say at our company. So you guys know what I'm talking about, right? So anyway, my wife is testing for her black belt, and unfortunately, she jumped over a student. She broke the board. She landed wrong on her leg, and it was snap, crackle, and pop. She busted up her leg pretty good. She ended up with 7 screws and a plate in her leg. Well, that night, we almost lost her because they put her on morphine, as they, of course, do, for pain and so on. Well, back then, the test was not available, in all fairness, 10 years ago. But, of course, we got her PGX test done as we entered into the space. And guess what she can never have, ladies and gentlemen? Her body cannot metabolize morphine. Boy, I wish we would have known that, because that night we almost lost her. So I'm reading this article in flight. I'm reflecting my dad and my wife's situation, and I'm just fuming as to why in the world at least my father's physician did not give him this very simple, stupid test that could have prevented all the nonsense that he went through. So as I got off the airplane, I called my team and I said, guys, I know nothing about this space. We know nothing about this space, but we're going to get into this space because we're going to help save lives. So ladies and gentlemen, that's how MedX Prime was born, and that's why I'm personally so very passionate about this. You see, the bottom statement there on this slide says it all. It gives the doctor the right information so that he can or she can issue the right drug with the right dosage and right from the beginning. My father said to me when I was 10 years old, he says, son, when you go through life, you're going to experience something, don't forget this, that common sense isn't common. And my goodness, don't we all see that every day of our life? And certainly on topic here, that statement is common sense all day long. By physicians implementing this within their practice, of course, it enhances patient care, but it also protects the doctor from legal liability. Here's an article that came out in the New Yorker, and it says it all. It says, I forget, if I have an adverse drug reaction, do I call my doctor or my lawyer? So the legal system is now circling and suing doctors on behalf of their patients that have had adverse drug reactions. But I'm very excited to report that when we started the company 2 years ago, although there's a ton of information online about pharmacogenetics testing and PGX, otherwise known as PGX, and it's all positive, by the way, there wasn't a lot of media attention being given to it a couple years ago when we came into the space. But I'm very excited. Over the last few months, there's been a tremendous amount of media attention, and that's why I absolutely know that this will become standard practice within a couple short years. When that happens, it's going to be a wonderful day for all of us, and I'll talk about that here in just a moment. NBC did a report, genetic tests could prevent drug reactions. ABC did one. Fox News did a fantastic segment on it just a couple months ago. Huffington Post, Forbes, Men's Journal, American Family, CNN, Sanjay Gupta. And this one I'm really excited about. For the very first time in the history of the United States, has a Surgeon General sent out a letter to every doctor in the country. He's calling their attention and their assistance on opiate overdosing and deaths. But the abuse and deaths of opiates is not just because of abuse, it's also because of the wrong medications being prescribed. Here's the actual letter that was sent out by him to all doctors in the country. But this one I'm really excited about. Scientific American, just a couple months ago, wrote about St. Jude's and how St. Jude's is now testing every one of their patients. But what I liked the most in that article is a bottom statement that St. Jude's management said, and this was a message to the entire medical community. They said, if you knew about this genetic information and did not act on it, you would not be practicing good medicine. That's a wake-up call for every doctor in this country and in this world. U.S. News just came out last month talking about our subject matter. Oncology just wrote about pharmacogenetic testing and the significance of this test for patients that are dealing with chemotherapy, etc. Wall Street Journal just, 10, 12 days ago, came out with this article. It says, when patients take too many pills, doctors de-prescribe. Really? Duh. That's what we've been saying forever, that there's been way too many medications being prescribed and, of course, wrong medications. And by the way, don't let me misstate this. It's not that doctors are purposely misprescribing. They're prescribing what medications they feel would help the patient. But the problem is they're not using the science that allows them to know if that medication is the appropriate medication for that patient. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about how simple this test is. It's not like you and I have to be thrown on a table and cut open in half to determine what meds work for us. It's called a buccal swab. It's a fancy name for a Q-tip. The doctor rubs, or the staff rubs, a Q-tip on the inside cheek of your mouth for 1 minute on one side and another one on the other side for 1 minute. It goes into a small little envelope that's tossed into a Federal Express package. It goes over to our lab. And by the way, the lab picks up the shipping and the kit price and all that, not you or the doctor's office. Within a few days, the lab sends back a very detailed and yet very simple report. It is one of the most, if you can coin it as a beautiful report, it is. It's a beautiful report because at a glance, the doctor can see what meds are going to work good for you and, more importantly, what's not going to work good for you. And we've teamed up with the most comprehensive lab that does the most comprehensive test in the industry. Our test is a 50-gene test. A few other labs in the market that do this particular test, they do a 10, 12, 14, 16-gene test, but we do a 50-gene test. We also do a drug-to-drug interaction. We also do a drug-to-food and drug-to-alcohol, and we use what is called next-generation sequencing. Not going to mean much to you guys on this call, but it is advanced testing. Our lab has won all kinds of awards. They won the Ernst & Young, and recently, this year, they picked up the Forrest and Sullivan Award for technology innovation. Here's a friend of mine that is the CEO of an insurance company. Under our financial halo services, which we did not talk about, our parent company, we have some phenomenal services under that umbrella, one of them being insurance program, which is very unique, and this is the CEO of that company. As you can see on the right, Dwayne unfortunately also experienced an adverse drug reaction. He took a medication, and his body literally blew up to about double the size. He says, Sunil, when that picture was taken, that was actually a good day. It was much worse than that. So needless to say, Dwayne is all over our business model. In fact, to the point that he has shared our model with now his 1,500 reps around the country, that he's asked them to get behind our program and help save lives. Not only this one, but some of our other programs that we'll touch on here in just a moment. So ladies and gentlemen, you must be asking this question: why in the world aren't every doctor doing this? That's a great question. That's $1 million question. And let me share with you the number one reason. And you're not going to believe this when I tell you. It's just that they don't know about it. You're going, no way. I had an oncology surgeon, urologist who came to our office last week from Napa, California. He drove up 2 hours to visit with us. He stayed with us for 2 hours and drove back for 2 hours. 6 hours of his day he took out because he was so blown away by this technology. And he kept asking, hey, Sunil, why don't I know about this? I said, Doc, man, that's $1 million question I should be asking you. Why don't you know about this? But he didn't. And he kept saying, this is a no-brainer. This is something every doctor should be doing. We're very excited because he's helping us with our mission. I was on a phone with a doctor, a surgeon, 35-year veteran out of Dallas. He, too, knew nothing about this. And he really got upset when I told him that we have a 4-minute video with Vanderbilt, the Mayo Clinic, and even the White House talking about this brilliant test. And he got upset because he went to Vanderbilt. He says, wait a minute, you're telling me Vanderbilt's all over it? I don't even know about that? I said, Doc, you don't. And he was very upset. The other excuses that we get, frankly, are we're too busy. We don't have time to implement another test. And boy, that one, ladies and gentlemen, when I hear that, that just stands a hair behind my neck, as they say. You mean my father had time to mess around with these medications and the sickness he dealt with for a year? How about that mother who lost her life and left her 5 kids behind, sorry. What about Dwayne, my buddy that was hospitalized? So when a doctor tells me they don't have 2 minutes, unacceptable. I hear that they don't have enough staff. I don't care. There's not one excuse, reason a doctor can give me when we're talking about the 4th leading cause of death, adverse drug reactions. In my opinion, and this is my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, is a doctor not doing this test after learning about it should hang up their license and go home. Or stop at least prescribing medications. That's how adamant I am about this being implemented in every practice. Let me be clear on something. You guys might think I dislike doctors because of my anger. No, I love docs. What amazing people. So please don't misunderstand. I love docs. I've got docs in my family. I know a lot of doctors. Amazing people. But I am angry. You better believe I'm angry because the technology that's been out for 8 years should be in every practice today, period, end of story. Because over the 2 years, ladies and gentlemen, I have heard so many unfortunate stories. Like one of our reps that just shared his story about his girl, his daughter, on our national call. Every Sunday night, we do a national call. And he was on our call about a month ago, shared the story about how his daughter has been dealing with medications for the last 15 years and struggled through high school, struggled through college, and struggled through life, and yet she still landed a beautiful job, high-paying job, which she lost because over the last couple of years she's been regressing. So he went to her doctor after learning about our company. He came on a webinar just like you've joined us today, learned about this brilliant test, went to the doctor. The doctor said, no, I'm not going to do that test. I don't do that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. And as I often say on my webinars, I'll say right now, in my opinion, if your doctor says no, drop that doctor and go get another doctor. So Kevin did do that exactly. He went to another doctor and said, hey, doc, here's my situation, our situation with our daughter for the last 15 years. I've learned about a test called PGX. Here's what it does. I want to get this test done for my daughter. The doctor brilliantly said, sure, absolutely, let's do it. Test results come back, and this new doctor says to Kevin, the father, I'm surprised your daughter is still alive, because she's been on all of the wrong medications for 15 years. Can you imagine? And Kevin is literally crying on our national call, telling the story. Of course, the doctor switched out her medications as per the report, and within 30 days, Kevin says, I got my daughter back. She's a whole brand new woman. She got her job back from the company that had to let her go. And he's, again, just crying, sharing the story. All because of a 2-minute test. Ladies and gentlemen, this is profound stuff we're sharing with you here today. And so in closing this segment of our presentation, I can't encourage enough that each and every one of you that are on medications, perhaps have had adverse drug reactions, which most people do, or you know somebody who's on medications, you must get this test done. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to share all the stories that we've heard over the last 2 years with you, but they will blow your mind. We've created a one-page letter that we will customize with your name and your doctor's name, and we'll ask you to take this into your doctor. And at that point, the doctor has two options, either to say yes or no. And again, my 2 cents, my opinion. If the doctor says no, go find another doctor, just as Kevin did for his daughter. Now, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have created a brilliant business model that you can make a bloody fortune, as they say, for doing very little. Now, I know that sounds very strange, but we want to call on each and every one of you to help us with our mission of every doctor, every patient. Now, if you're not interested in making any more money in your world, that's okay. You can jump off the call. We do encourage you to get together with the person that invited you, our representative that invited you. They'll be happy to set up your doctor so you can get your test done. But please realize you will not be personally compensated. They will. But if you're interested in getting compensated by setting up your own doctor so you can get your test done and also earn compensation, we ask that you stick around, because we're going to share with you just a brilliant business model that we've created, if you don't mind me saying. Now, we have 4 different services that we offer physicians, and you'll have a very high probability of implementing one or multiple services within that same practice. But let's talk about the pharmacogenetic testing that we just spoke about and how much money you could make for doing very little activity. Let's assume that all of you on the call here today have a best friend by the name of Dr. Bob. Okay? You're going to go to Dr. Bob, and you're going to show Dr. Bob a 4-minute video that I mentioned earlier with the Mayo Clinic, Vanderbilt, and the White House talking about this test. And again, as I mentioned, if the doctor doesn't get it after watching that 4-minute video, what else can I say? Okay? He's going to get it. You're going to show him our sample report. You're going to show a couple of the articles written. We'll be on phone calls with you and the doctor if need be here at MedX Prime. We can even get the lab directors, PhDs from the lab, to talk to the doctor if they have any detailed information. So we're here to help you in signing up the doctor. The sign-up process is very simple. You're going to get his name, address, phone number, email address, his license number. You're going to put that on a form. You're going to submit it here to our company. Our lab is going to send you the kits to you the first time around, because we want you to walk those kits into the doctor's office, because we want you to show the staff a 3-minute, very simple video of how to swab a patient. It's very simple. It's a Q-tip. You rub it on the inside of the mouth, not brain surgery here. But we want you to go in, show the video, and now the staff is ready to go. Now, according to Google, the average doctor in this country has 2,500 patients. So let's say that Dr. Bob, over the next year, tests 40% of his patients. It should be a lot more than that, but just for conservative purposes, let's say 40%. Mathematically, that equates to 1,000 patients that he's going to test. Our lab will bill the insurance companies. Some insurance companies will reimburse, some don't. They'll bill Medicare. Some Medicare patients will reimburse, some won't. But let's say that the lab gets reimbursed on 500 of those 1,000, just for conservative and round numbers here. As you can see at the bottom of the slide, from commercial insurance, our lab generally, roughly average, gets about $1,000 reimbursement. From Medicare, it's anywhere from $150 to $500. Well, let's just use some round numbers here, and let's say those tests, the 500 tests, were reimbursed at $1,000. We pay you as a rep 20% of each one that's reimbursed. 20% of 1,000 is $200. Hence that $200 that you see on the top left of the slide. 200 times the 500 tests that were reimbursed means $100,000 to you as a representative of MedX Prime for setting up your Dr. Bob. So ladies and gentlemen, what exactly did you do to earn $100,000? And let's even take that number for really conservative numbers. Let's chop that even in half and call it $50,000. You earned $50,000 from your Dr. Bob over the next 12 months. And what exactly did you do? Oh, yes, you did go in for 15 minutes or so, shared the video, answered some questions. Yes, you took the kits in. That was another 15 minutes. Even add travel time in. Let's call it 5 hours total time, just for sake of conservative illustration here. The doctor and his staff is doing the swabbing. Our lab is doing the analysis. A report is sent back to the doctor for review with the patient. And yet you made 50 grand? Or 60 or 70 or 100? Whatever that number turns out to be. From one practice. See, that's the genius of our model. As I promised you just a minute ago before starting this segment, for very little activity on your part, for saving lives, you can make a bloody fortune. Now, the second genius part of our plan is that those of you that understand the power of leverage, those of you that understand the real estate world, the financial planning world, real estate, insurance, or any sales organization, we pay you an override for developing a team of reps. So let me illustrate that. Let's say that you call your next door neighbor Joe and say, hey Joe, listen man, you've got to take a look at this company called MedX Prime. They're saving lives and you can make a fortune for doing very little. I want you to get on a webinar, Joe. They do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So Joe comes on our Monday night call, just as you've joined us here today. He likes what he sees. He joins the company. But he's linked to you now forever because you told him about our company. Now, Joe gets out there and he sets up a doctor, and in our illustration, Joe would earn the 100 grand or the 50 grand or whatever that number turns out to be for setting up his own doctor out there. But because you brought him into our company, you pick up $50 on every test that Joe's doctor does. Or doctors do, because Joe's going to go out there and set up 2, 3, 5, 20, 30 doctors, who knows how many doctors. And you pick up $50. So if his Dr. Bob, so to speak, did the 500 tests as an example that were reimbursed to the lab, you pick up 50 times 500 or $25,000. And again, what exactly did you do? Oh, yes, you invited him to the webinar. He joined the company. He went through the whole training process himself. He went out there and set up the doctor or doctors, and you earned forever $50 on every test that's reimbursed to our lab by the doctors he sets up. Now, another genius part of our model is that you never have to build a team of reps if you don't want to. A major mistake in our opinion, but if you just want to personally go out and set up doctors, beautiful. That's first and foremost what we want you to do. If you go out there and set up 10 doctors, as you can see on the screen, let's say it takes you 30 days or maybe it takes you 6 months or a year. It's up to you, of course, how fast you want to get out there and set them up. But say you've set up 10 doctors, and let's even be even more conservative than our previous example. Here I'm showing what if each of those 10 doctors only test 20% of their patient base? And what if the lab only got reimbursed on 20% of those tests, which is not the fact, but just being very conservative here. Look at the dollars that's on the table for you guys with our business model. Now, folks, as I mentioned, we have amazing collateral material. We have a 4.5-minute video, White House, Vanderbilt, and the Mayo Clinic. We have a 3-minute video from the Wall Street Journal. We have a 2-minute amazing video that the Mayo Clinic did all about pharmacogenetic testing. We have beautiful brochures that we've created. We've been complimented that these are on the level of Fortune 500 companies. We have posters that you should hang in every doctor's office once you land that doctor. Put it in the exam room. Imagine sitting there with your child, your wife, your husband, your parents, a loved one, and you read this poster, and you've had nothing but problems with the medications, and it says, hey, 2-minute tests could determine what medications work best for you. Are you kidding me? Are you not going to ask the doctor? My favorite is this one. Yeah, I know. It's got a gun. I know guns are very sensitive in our crazy world today that we live in. But those are pills around that gun, and it says, don't play Russian roulette with your life. You see, our objective with these posters is to wake up the patient, wake up the staff, and wake up the doctor. So if you can implement these in doctors' offices, you absolutely want to. Now, that was only income source number one that we shared with you. You can make an absolute fortune setting up doctors to do PGX testing. But what you're going to find is you're going to change that practice for the better, because that doctor is now going to be able to take better care of his or her patients. In fact, recently, one of our staff members at our corporate office, young lady, 24 years old, she's never sold anything in her life. She just graduated from college a year and a half ago. Our job is her first job she's ever had. She's been now with us for 1 year. And she went in to see her doctor for just a physical about 2 months ago. And at the end of the physical, we briefed her on what she should do and say to that doctor. So she did. She said, hey, doc, I'd like to get a test. She showed that letter. The doctor said, hey, can you come back in 2 weeks? She did. She showed the 4-minute video. She showed the sample report. She answered a couple questions, showed a couple articles, and the doctor implemented the PGX testing. Thus far, the doctor has done 25 tests. In fact, she was so impressed with the reports and the information that the doctor herself just tested herself. Why? Because she's on meds that haven't suited her, and she just got her report back, and she's absolutely blown away with the information about her body and the meds that she was on. Now, 25 tests so far have been submitted to the lab. 6 of them have been reimbursed. Based on the reimbursements, which vary, remember I said that earlier, it can vary from 1,000, maybe sometimes 1,200 to maybe 800. They're all over the board. But based on those 6 that were reimbursed, this young lady's commission this month is $4,900, just from those 6. But guess what else we're having her do with this doctor? Because the doctor is so impressed, that doctor now has her other 4 doctors in the practice starting to do the testing. But we've asked her to go back in and speak to the doctor about the toxicology part. You see, every practice, and all of us on this call have peed in a cup, which is sent to a lab, and our results come back to the doctor. So we're now going to say to this doctor, look what we've done for your practice. Please let us process your toxicology, because we have a brilliant lab that does a very outstanding and a very advanced toxicology test that most labs don't do. Now, the genius of getting the toxicology business, ladies and gentlemen, is this. Unlike PGX testing, which you get paid one time because it's a one-time lifetime test, toxicology, on the other hand, is ongoing. Doctors sometimes give a patient a toxicology test on a daily basis. Some are given weekly, some are monthly, some are quarterly. But the point is, if you get the toxicology account of a practice, you're not just getting onesies here and there. You can get hundreds, if not thousands, of tests monthly, depending on the size of the practice. And in our model, we're going to pay you, on an average, $100 per test. As a very silly example, let's say you set up 10 doctors to give you their toxicology. And those 10 doctors only send you 10 tox tests per month. That's 100 toxicology tests from 10 practices, which is unreal because, again, one practice should be sending you hundreds. But based on this very simple example, you would make $10,000 in our model. So this is compensation number 2 for you. Compensation number 3, and this is a brilliant program because not only can you as representatives make a fortune, but so can the doctors. See, doctors' incomes are very much on the decline. They're very open to making ancillary dollars. And this is a brilliant program that actually Medicare implemented for those practices that have Medicare patients. And the idea of this annual wellness visit is the doctor to do a comprehensive analysis of that patient so that they could be better served by the doctor. But the problem is when this program was implemented by Medicare, it was so cumbersome from a paperwork standpoint that most doctors elected not to do it. But we've teamed up with a company that has a brilliant what is called clinic within a clinic program. What that simply means is that the doctor says yes to the program. Our partner will actually put their own nurse in that practice, and that nurse will do everything with this project on behalf of the doctor. The doctor, of course, oversees it, but our people do everything else. And you as a representative, all you have to do is pique the interest of the doctor, show a 4-minute video to the doctor about this program, set an appointment, and our provider will actually present why and how the program works and do all of that for you and actually close the doctor and implement the entire program, for which the doctor makes a fortune. As an example, if our partner sees, say, 30 patients a week, which is nothing for the practice, which would mean 120 patients in a month, the doctor would earn, in this example, $12,000 for the month. And if that happened every month, 120, which is nothing, 120 patients every month, that would equate to $144,000 to the practice on an annual basis. Some practices have huge Medicare numbers, which could mean hundreds of thousands of dollars on an annual basis. By the way, each annual visit per patient also generally triggers an average of $300 of additional revenue coming into the practice. From the annual wellness visit, it is generally uncovered that the patient needs XYZ services, and therefore it triggers yet another $300. On 100 patients a month, that triggers yet another $300 a patient. That's another $30,000 in revenue on top of the $12,000 we just talked about. So we're talking some significant dollars here. Another no-brainer program, if you will, for doctors. Now, you guys as representatives also make, of course, a fortune doing this. For doing nothing but setting the doctor up, and you're not even setting up the doctor. Our partner is doing that. You're only piquing the interest in setting an appointment, and we're doing everything else. You get paid $12 per patient. So on 120 patients being helped with this AWV this month, you picked up $1,440. That's amazing. And, of course, every month, whatever number of patients go through this program, you're getting $12. Now, in closing our call, ladies and gentlemen, the last and final area, and this is absolutely mind-boggling, what we've created here, is a partnership with a company called Business Advisors MD. You'll see the picture of at the bottom right of Cash Tandon. He's a founder and CEO and now our business partner. And Cash actually joined our company. Interesting story. About 11 months ago, he joined a webinar as you're watching this webinar today. He was so impressed with the pharmacogenetic testing that he came on board, and he set up 3 doctors to do the pharmacogenetic tests. And so far, he's earned about $110,000 in commission just from those 3 doctors. 3 separate single practitioner practices that he signed up to do PGX testing. But as I got to know Cash over the last year, I reached out to him, as I often do. Many of you on the call here today will get a call from me to say hello and welcome and congratulate you for your performance and the commissions you're earning, etc. So as I reached out to Cash, I learned about his business model. And ladies and gentlemen, here's what he does in layman's terms. For the last 16 years, he's got a niche market. You see your Dr. Bob that we talked about, this month will bill out for his services, say $100,000 to insurance companies, Medicare, etc. And you'll have an in-house billing staff that will bill and try to collect as much money of that as they can. Or they'll hire a billing company to do the same. The national average is that these billing companies or in-house staff will generally get back somewhere around 60 to 70% of those dollars. The other 30 to 40% they normally do not chase because it's very time-consuming, very labor-intensive. Why? You see, the medical billing environment is very complex. It's like the IRS code. There's 65,000 codes and 8,000 diagnoses. So you can imagine the combination of is very complex. So what the billing staff would rather do, or the billing company would rather do, is go after the next month's 70% and the following month 70% and the following month 70%. And what happens is that doctor's 30, 40% just kind of piles up, if you will, but never lands in his pocket. So Cash, over the last 16 years, has gone after those dollars and very successfully gets some of those dollars back in the doctor's pocket. So as I was learning about this and we were conversing on the phone, I, of course, asked the question that I'm sure all of you are asking is, well, how many doctors have this problem going on? And I figured he was going to say, 10, 15, 20%. Instantly, he comes back and says almost 100%. I thought, no way. No way. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm eating my words because it's amazing. There is truly a financial crisis going on with doctors all over the country with this very issue. So as I learned about his program, I tweaked his model because I wanted to make this, as I say, stupid simple for the doctors, very easy for you guys, and extremely lucrative for you. And so here's what we've done. You're going to pique the interest of the doctor. Hey, Dr. Bob, if you're like most doctors, you're probably owed a lot of money from Medicare and insurance companies. Am I correct? Probably in the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's going to say, yep. Well, Doc, I got a solution for you. I got a 16-year-old company that are specialists in trying to get some of those dollars back in your pocket. In fact, Doc, I got a 3-minute video you got to watch. This video has been done by an orthopedic group that had $3 million in ARs, and we got them back just about $1 million of it. You got to watch this video. And what I like to do is set up an appointment with our corporate office for 15 minutes, and they'll explain how our program works. And if you like what you hear, within 48 hours from you saying go, they'll come back with what we call a wow report. And Doc, the reason we call it a wow report is because every doctor says wow half a dozen times at least during our subsequent call with them, where we review a detailed sampling of your accounts receivables. Why in the world those things piled up on you? So, Doc, what's a good day this week I can set that appointment up? Friday at noon. Perfect. The only other thing we want you to do as a rep is go back in at 11:30, remind the doctor. As you can imagine, they're very busy. They often forget their own appointments. You're going to have a phone number to the corporate office where you're texting and letting us know if the doctor is on time, if they're running 15 minutes behind, or perhaps they got called out on an emergency. We're so busy that we don't want our people sitting around twiddling their thumbs waiting for the doctor. There are 1,000 things going on, so we want you guys to communicate, let us know how the doctor is doing from a time standpoint. And this very little activity that we're asking you to do, ladies and gentlemen, will pay you a fortune because we pay you in two different ways. Here's just a couple success stories. We brought on a cardiology group that was doing $130 a month in billing. After we took over, the first month it was $140, 3 months it was $170, 6 months $180. What does that mean? We actually increased that doctor's bottom line by $50,000 without, without any increase in patients or increase in volume. With the same amount of business that doctor was doing, he's making $50,000 more per month because we're doing it right. And the stories go on and on. But we pay you in two different ways. Phase one is the AR recovery that we talked about. You see, when that doctor comes on the phone to review the WOW report, at the end, the doctor says, wow, I'm very impressed. Can you guys do the full detailed report? And what this full detailed report means, ladies and gentlemen, is that we will give that doctor a step-by-step report, a full detailed report that he or she can literally take to their in-house staff or their billing company and say, here's a report, go chase down as much of my ARs as you can. There's, of course, a fee for that. The fee can range anywhere from $2,500 to $15,000, depending on the size of the AR. The example on the screen of a $300,000 accounts receivable, the doctor would pay $15,000. Your commission, by the way, as you can see on the left side, is a third of whatever fee we collect. So in this example, you would make $5,000. Now wait a minute. What exactly did you do to make $5,000? Yes, you set up the appointment. We did everything else. The genius of our model, as I said earlier. For you doing very little, you can earn a lot. But doctors will very rarely take us up on option one for two reasons. Number one, they don't like to pay a fee up front. And number two, think about this logically. Would you really want to pay for a report and then take it back to the same people that screwed things up for you already? I think not. So they often ask, is there another option? Yes, there is, Doc. We'll collect the money and we'll keep 30%. So if we collect $100,000 of the 30 of the $300,000, we would get 30, the doc gets 70, and you would get 10. But even this, doctors often balk at, as I say, because it's 30%. Although this is money that they don't have in their pocket, is sitting in the corner of their office, so to speak, just kind of stacking up, yet they complain about 30%. So we really want them to take option 3, and this is what most doctors are taking, which is very exciting for us and you. We'll do the recovery at 15%. So wait a minute. You're thinking your revenue went down because we only get 15,000, you only get 5, which is still substantial, but it's actually not gone down, it's gone up. Because for option 3, they also have to become a billing client, and that's what we want. That 3-doctor practice, let's say, do $3 million a year in billing, your commission would be $15,000. We pay it monthly to you, but it equates to $15,000. And by the way, we pay this month after month, year after year, that this practice stays on our books. And cash has had a very high retention rate of 95+%. So think about this one practice. In 10 years, you would have made $150,000 just from this one practice. But there's no cap on this. Let's say you brought a $6 million practice in. Your commission in this example would be $30,000. In fact, we just closed a lab. One of our reps knew the CEO, brought the CEO to the table. We did all the work. We closed the deal, and the rep is going to make about $100,000 every year just from that one account. So pique the interest of the doctor, show the video, set an appointment, get out of there. We'll do everything else. We have trainers all over the country to help you. We have 120 trainers. I won't show 120 pictures here, but just to give you an idea, some brilliant people with some amazing backgrounds. In fact, many of you on the call here today, based on your business acumen, based on your sales and marketing, based on perhaps you're from the medical community, you may want to elect to become a trainer, which means additional income source for you as well. Recently, a few months ago, Forbes, powerful financial magazine, of course, came out with an article that basically, in a nutshell, said that most of us are behind life financially. And their emphasis was on our business model, which is very misunderstood. A lot of people misunderstand direct selling and the idea of building a sales force. But the author of this article said that I believe that the entire industry is poised for explosive growth. And the genius of our model, ladies and gentlemen, because so many of us are behind life, is that you have the opportunity to come in for next to nothing without major investments in opening up businesses out there. Your whopping cost to join our company is $200. It's a certification fee. When you pay that one-time fee, you get online module trainings so that you understand what PGX is and toxicology and AWV and BAM and some of our other services under the Financial Halo umbrella. You don't have to market all of them. You can only market one or two or all of them, whatever you want. The only other cost is a minimum of $19.95 a month for websites, and we give you multiple websites because you'll want to market the Financial Halo services, which we did not talk about on this call. But those of you that want to market the MedX Prime services will have its own websites. You have the ability to build a team, as I mentioned. We'll track them for you. We'll pay them and you. And we do all of that and give you tons of information in what we call your back office. We provide you a huge marketing resource library to help you succeed in our business. You know, we had a young lady that just joined our company a couple months ago in Houston, Texas, and I had the pleasure of speaking to her on the phone. And she says, Sunil, I'm really upset. I go, why? She says, because I just paid $300,000 for a franchise, and my heart sank for her. Because just because you buy a franchise doesn't mean you're going to be successful. And she says, Sunil, if I would have seen your opportunity first, I would have never have entered that business. Now, she joined with our company because she sees an amazing opportunity for a whopping $200. But ladies and gentlemen, you spent $200 on dinner last week. So we're not talking about a huge investment. You know, one of the things that I'm really baffled that a lot of people in this country aren't aware of is that if you're an employee of a company and you're on a W-2 and you're paying taxes and all that today, by joining our company, you now become a business owner. And I'm not here to give you tax advice, but your tax preparer, I'm sure, will validate what I'm telling you. And that is your $200 is a write-off, your $20 a month is a write-off, and many other things become write-offs as well. So please do keep that in mind. And yet, we also, of course, give you an amazing opportunity to make significant dollars. So with that, folks, we invite you to please get back together with the person that invited you. Please come on board. They'll send their link to you. It'll take you a couple minutes to join the company. You'll get your replicated website immediately. You'll have access to your back office immediately. You'll start to go through your training with a welcome letter that comes to you, and the links to the training are in that letter. So, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot thank you enough for your valuable time today. We hope you have caught the vision with our company and will join our company And as we have a saying in our company, doing well by doing good. That's what our company is all about, folks. We're not marketing vitamins and shampoos and love potions here. We're marketing some amazing things where you have the ability to make a fortune. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Please get back together with the person that invited you.